So tonight I'm just going to skip the introduction, get right to it because there's a lot that I want to digest. And pretty much what prompted me to want to do this video is due to the fact that there was a video posted on YouTube and it had this female pretty much taking a shit on affirmative action. Okay. I understand the one side of the argument where it questions the quota being filled based on getting a certain amount of people of color to fill certain positions, and it overlooks whether or not a person is qualified. I hear you. However, because of, and I'll give some examples that doesn't have to do with why affirmative action was created and put in the position in the first place, because I'm sure anybody who knows the history understands why affirmative action was needed. But if you want to talk in today's climate, let's look at today's climate. You can have people who has been on a job for X amount of years, never missed a day, never called in sick, has a damn near perfect attendance, despite what family issues they may have. They know the job inside out and pretty much do the job of their superiors. Do they get bumped up or do they get a promotion? No, they don't. Because what we have nowadays is people who entertain cliques, especially cliques within the workplace. And if that person within the clique don't like you, oh, you're not going to get fired, but you're not going to level up. Okay? So there's discrimination that people get away with, and if they have a personal issue with you, what chance do you stand in getting further? But people say, well, why don't you quit? Well, it's easier said than done when you've invested so much time. Or you've been promised that yes, you'll get a promotion, or yes, they'll give you a pat on the back and say good work, but the ones that are getting rewarded are the ones that ain't doing their job in the first place. Okay? Um, let's talk about when you have a family owned business, right? And it's a company, and say this person has no experience whatsoever, but because they're the nephew of, or the cousin of, or the niece of, or the daughter of, or the son of, you could have been there, know how to run the machines, or whatever, know the ins and outs, know how to do the schedule, know who's productive, who's not productive and stuff. But you don't get a bump in pay. You don't get a promotion. You're just skipped over because family's first, even though they're not qualified. So I would use those examples as factors to say there's still issues today that we don't look at, or we don't consider, or we disregard conveniently because you want to attack the existence of something that you see problematic, because it's one of those things that you can use as a talking point to get people's attention to jump on some sort of bandwagon, so to speak. Okay? Now, to get why affirmative action was put into place. We all know that people hate history. That's the reason why they don't want people to learn their history. That's why they demonize certain things and use certain narratives to, how should I say, mislead people in one direction, so the curiosity of people wanting to know or be educated on or have knowledge of is interrupted or disrupted. So we know that in a certain period of time, within this country, that when there were people, let's be honest now, slaves, that when, if they were freed. There was laws created that, hey, if you didn't have a job, oh, it was against the law. So guess what? You got arrested. Who you think was the ones that got arrested? I'll wait for a minute. But okay, people say, but that's in the past. Yeah, it's in the past, but here's the problem. Who created the laws? But we don't want to talk about that because we keep making excuses for these same groups of people that we say isn't a problem today. At certain demographics, I would agree. But across the board, come on, let's be real. Um, when we want to talk about how the fear mongering, how they say, oh, they're coming to take your jobs. There's not going to be enough jobs for the white man and stuff because the black people are going to come. They're going to take your positions. So what do? We refuse to hire. So and here's the thing too. What's funny is when people say, well, if there are issues, why don't you stop complaining? Why don't you do something about it? Why don't you come up with a solution? Okay, so a solution was made. When we talk about Tulsa, Tulsa had banks, black owned banks, hotels, movie theaters, doctors, hospitals, and their own schooling. But because certain people disapproved of that, and because of a false accusation that was made, or it was assumed, what happened? They bombed the shit, looted the shit, killed those, as many as they could. And there's other examples aside from the bombing of Black Wall Street, the Tulsa massacre. There's other events that don't go down the timeline but goes up the timeline. And I spoke on it before with the Philadelphia bombing. On the move, on John Africa, the activist of the Move organization. Um, some of the areas that were predominantly black that was flooded out intentionally. And not just recently, when you had these black families in Georgia that purchased land so they could create a community where they could start thriving again and pull themselves up by the bootstraps. Who had an issue with it? Just take a wild guess. So, with a lot of things that I hear people taking an issue with, whenever there's something that we try to come up with a solution, that's never good enough. Now, let's talk about some of these things that get thrown up in the comment section. Now, people seem to have an issue or throw it out there like, well, you got black entertainment, you got this, you got that, whatever. The reason why there's certain things that exist is so we can identify with things that we couldn't relate to because all we had to go off of was the white influence. When you look at the TV shows that I know as a kid growing up, pretty much aside from the facts of life, which had Rudy, Different Strokes, which had Arnold, and Good Times and What's Happening and the Jeffersons and stuff. Oh, and the Cosby Show and 227. Um, Pretty much you didn't have much of anything else to look at because everything else was predominantly white. All the shows, the TV networks, predominantly white. The cartoons that we grew up on, predominantly white. There was nothing that had the influence of anything else other than white. But it was okay, right? But as soon as we start creating things for ourselves that we can identify with, now all of a sudden it's a problem. Oh, and I look at the comment section and it's like, oh yeah, black people got BET, the Oprah Winfrey Network. They got HBCUs. They got the NAACP. They got it's just like, why do you think these things were put in place? Because one, we couldn't go to certain colleges. We couldn't own certain networks. You seen what happened when Michael tried to get Sony You seen what happened with Bill Cosby trying to get NBC? Coincidence? But see, these are the things that you think other people are just flat out ignorant and don't take notice of. But when you sit there and try to spew this bullshit, and people that do pay attention to details call you out on it, oh, now you want to start deflecting. It's like whenever whenever I hear the stop complaining, stop playing the victim, stop having that victimhood mentality, this, that, and everything else, it's like, okay, I hear you, and I would agree, except for you guys co-sign off of the victim mentality. The reason why I say that is because when I see blanket statements or generalizations being made, you discount the portion of those within the community, especially the black community, that don't identify with the negative narratives that y'all keep bringing up. And y'all bring it up as much as people bring up the shit that y'all dislike being brought up. But here's the kicker. What I said before, and it's relevant, is the fact that if a lot of shit that is brought up today was corrected yesterday, it wouldn't be a discussion currently. But since people have gotten away with doing the shit that they have been getting away with doing for so long, that you can only, how do they put it? What's done in the dark comes to light. Meaning, a lot of the shit that was done, or as they would say, was part of the status quo, business as usual, when all that shit gets disrupted and how they say it starts being dismantled, I don't understand how people are that conditioned where they are actually defending a broken system or things that is oppressive. And just because it's kumbaya and Pleasantville and certain demographics of this country doesn't mean that that's the reality across the whole fucking board, because it isn't. Because in some areas, people still practice that racial prejudice, discriminating mentality. And those within those demographics are affected by it. But like I said before, out of sight, out of mind. If it doesn't affect you, you could give a fuck. But you sure do sit from a fucking distance with an opinion and quick to criticize. And you know nothing about what other people are going through. But you feel comfortable to sit on that throne of judgment to say, hey, these people are exaggerating. These people are playing victim or da 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 da. But when it comes to other groups and shit, you give them a pass. They could do the same fucking thing and not a fucking thing is said about them. That same energy that you spent criticizing the black community, you do not do it to the white community. But if anything is said about the white community, oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. Talking about racism, talking about that, talking about this. But I'm saying, I'm gonna say it's not about fucking racism for me at this point. It's about what's right is right and what's wrong is wrong and what's unfair versus what is fair. If you're not going to balance the scales and some of these things that are being talked about, you're only looking at things from a certain perspective and you're not looking at the whole picture, then you're perpetuating an agenda. And sometimes, because of how I see things It's like, no, I'm not just going to side with you just because you're black. And I'm not going to side with you just because you're white or just because of this, just because of that. No, I try to gain a lot of knowledge about certain things so I can have an understanding. So when I present an argument, I understand why people take an issue with this or people take an issue with that or why it affects this group versus how it doesn't affect another group or why certain groups are left out of topics of discussion and only certain groups are highlighted in certain debates. How come some people get awarded compensation for the damage done to their communities and their group of people, and other people are just conveniently dismissed, like unworthy of? And people co-sign off of it. Well, this and this and that. But then you don't have that same energy in arguing against why other people are compensated. Or even talking about the country in general. You'll sit there and talk bad about the homeless people, talk bad about people who are addicted to drugs, talk bad about people being on the system and only applying it to certain groups when in all actuality, the greater portion of people that you assume isn't on welfare, let's just be honest, is on welfare, but you want to scapegoat one community just to paint a certain narrative. I'm just saying. I mean, if in the famous words of a certain content creator, let's be honest. Cut the bullshit. Don't half-ass some shit. No, put all the cards on the table. Don't just don't handpick a selected few that you have in the deck to just put out there. No, show your whole hand. Is all that I'm saying. I'm not gonna say that I'm mad. It's just I get frustrated at times because I know people intentionally just throw the ignorance out there just to trigger people, get people going, get people pissed off because they know that this is the the general makeup, the characteristic of having a voice on social media to get people going, to get people triggered and shit like that. But we can't have honest discussions because it's either people are all in their feelings, they don't want to shut up long enough to listen, they don't care to understand, they only see things from their perspective and their perspective alone, they don't want an outside opinion, they don't know anything beyond their own demographics. So they feel that their demographics is the definition of all outside of their comfort zone. But if they dare decided to take a step out of their comfort zone, they'll get a reality check that they wouldn't even know. That'll be a hard pill for them to swallow. So for them, it's easy to cast judgment on others when they have zero to no knowledge other than what they are told. Because, and like I said before, I don't know everything about everything. And I tell people, don't sit there and idolize me. I'm just an average person, just like the next person. I'm no better than anybody else. I don't put myself above anybody else. I am humble to where I could listen to what you're saying, engage in a healthy debate. But when it start ignorant, don't think that I can't get ignorant back. It's just sometimes I choose not to waste that negative energy on stupidity. But sometimes I feel certain things need to be addressed because people just blindly follow others and form this cult like mentality to say, oh, that got to be the truth. Oh, because this person said it, it's got to be fact. Instead of doing your own research, literally doing your own research. But people are so fucking lazy that they don't. Or they don't question a lot of the things, and they talk about, oh yeah, people are free thinkers, but you ain't that fucking free that much of a free thinker if you're just going along just to get along, always agreeing with what somebody else is saying, especially someone who you follow religiously. Even certain people that I follow, I question. I don't always accept that whatever who I follow, what they say is a fact. Sometimes I ask hard questions. Sometimes I question certain things. Sometimes I stand on my own opinion. The way I see things don't always align with what others may see, how others may see things. But anyway, that's all I got for tonight. Until next time, until next video, please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment in the comment section to let me know what you think. Yes, this is a video I can just literally say, just allow me to vent, cause certain things just floors me at times. But anyway, you already know how I do. Peace.